in power, whether red or blue. They could not care less about Texas, me and you. They created this give me country that don't value hard work. For a Texan to survive, all we need are some seeds and dirt. Texan, arise, don't you hear your call? Got to save your country, for it's long gone. Texan, arise, don't you hear your call? Got to save your country, for it's long gone. We believe in family and we value our community. Gladly lend a helping hand to a neighbor in need. And we don't believe that government should provide for all of society's needs. No, it's the pride of a Texan to give to others voluntarily. Texan, arise, don't you hear your call? Gotta save your country, for it's long gone. Texan, arise, don't you hear your call? Got to save your country, for it's long gone. They like our tax dollars and they love our natural resources. They don't want to see us driving trucks, they'd rather see us riding horses. And now they want to ban our guns, you know, especially the ones that look scary. But may I remind you of the Gonzales Cannon and the Alamo heroes we buried. Texan, arise, don't you hear your call? Got to save our country, for it's long gone. Texan, arise, don't you hear your call? Got to save our country, for it's long gone. This last verse is straight from the Texas Constitution, Article 1, Section 1 and 2. Look it up. Texas is an independent state, yet presently we suffer. We no longer possess the right to locally self-govern. And now it's time as a people in which all political power is inherent. And in such manner we find expedient, we reform or abolish our government. I said, Texan, arise, don't you hear your call? Got to save your country, for it's long gone. Texan, arise, don't you hear your call? Got to save your country, for it's long gone.
Good evening, everyone. Hello, sorry. Taking a drink of coffee. It's time for coffee talk, right? As you can tell, I am sort of casual right now because it has been one of those days. I literally just a little bit ago peeled myself out of the car and made the drive all the way back so I could be with you here tonight. And then tomorrow it's off again. But anyway, for those of you just now joining us for the first time, I'm Daniel Miller, president of the Texas Nationalist Movement, and this is our weekly midweek break where I decompress, I answer your questions, I talk about uh, issues of the day, whatever's on my mind. Just got to take a break in the middle so I can get ready for the next shift, right? But anyway, that's what we do here. So be sure to drop your questions, and you'll see it. There's the address down there, the email address, coffeetalk@tnm.org. But also, if you are watching on either of the YouTube channels, chat is active. You can drop your questions in there, or on Facebook, you can drop your questions in there. They all wind up in a little window over here that I cannot see, but Kara can, and she's grabbing those questions and sending them over to me. So, time permitting, we'll get to your questions tonight. Look, I am, just so you understand, unlike many coffee talks, this one might be more coffee than talk because yours truly is a bit road weary. I'm not going to pretend otherwise. So anyway, look, let's get started. What do you say? We got lots of questions that came in, but just wanted to recap a little bit about what's been going on since we last talked. Now, of course, coffee talk last week, I took an opportunity to really kind of deal with this war of words that has erupted or that had erupted between us and Steve Bannon. And on Steve Bannon Watch, he still has not reached out to have me on the show to debate or discuss his position on the issue of states withdrawing from the union. So until he does, I pretty much stand unrefuted, right? I did note, however, thank you, Chris Milton, while I was stuck in traffic in Houston on the way back, that one of the hosts over at Real America's Voice, Anna Perez, was interviewing Rick Green. And when she did, she name dropped the book, she name dropped TNM, and name dropped me. So, Anna, thank you very much. Very much appreciated. I would never guess when I wrote the book, I never would have guessed the impact that it had. So, if you have not gotten a copy of it, be sure you head over to the TNM's website, tnm.me. You can also get it online at some of those other big book retailers, but the TNM would appreciate your contribution. So head over there and do that. And also, look, if you don't want to buy the book, if you just have questions and you say, look, I need to get answers to my questions, you can head over to texitnow.org. It's literally that right there, but with .org after it. And it has a searchable FAQ of about the 100 most asked questions in excruciating, painful detail. So get that thing done. So, we had pretty much no weirdness happen after last week, right? When I felt for sure that Bannon was going to be really upset that I called out the fact that his position on Texas withdrawing from the union is virtually identical, or his position on self-determination is virtually identical to the policy position on self-determination from the Communist Chinese Party. But alas, no takers. So what do you do, right? We mush on. So it has been a phenomenal, it's been a phenomenal week. I mean, I don't know any other way to say it. We got started getting reports in from meetups over the weekend that our TNM meetings are growing everywhere. I think the Lano group just celebrated its first anniversary with a record turnout. We had obviously the group down there in the Memorial area of Houston is doing phenomenally well. Bullard up there in Northeast Texas is tearing it up, and I heard there were some phenomenal guests at the Capel meeting. I think it was last night. So seeing lots and lots of reports come in from local coordinators. Um, yeah, we just absolutely crushing it. Right, people are turning out, and of course, the beginning of this week, we had to travel. So Monday was a bit of a travel day for us because last night we were invited to speak at a meeting of the True Texas Project down in Harlingen, right? So back in the Rio Grande Valley, and got to, it was, I shared with the folks that were there last night that the last time that I had been there to, speak at, an event or a meeting was Cameron County had a candidate scrum back when I was running for lieutenant governor, and got to go down there and visit with those fine folks. And I'm going to tell you, there were more people at the meeting last night than there were at that entire candidate scrum. I mean, the room was jam packed. And so, we got down there, and of course, we don't know what to expect, right? Because we just appointed two brand new district directors down there, Manny and Debbie Chapa. And so they came in, longtime supporters of the TNM and phenomenal people. And I'm going to tell you, if you were in that stretch, if you look at those two Senate districts, they kind of go from Corpus, a straight line down to the border. And Debbie took one and Manny took the other, because they literally live kind of on the line between the two, maybe a street over. Okay. So they agreed as a husband and wife team, they're retired military, just phenomenal people. They agreed to take it over, and they have been working that place hard, trying to organize. So, they showed up down there in Harlingen and walked into a packed house of people that are ready to see TEXIT happen. So let me thank the folks down there at the True Texas Project in Harlingen. They've invited us to more of their meetings at some of their other groups around the state. So we'll be doing that. Look on the calendar for those. I'd like to just extend my appreciation to Manny and Debbie for coming out there and just absolutely being perfect ambassadors for the TNM. And of course, everyone who came out to the event, they told us, the organizers of that event told us, that was the most turnout that they had at any of their meetings down there for Harlingen. So glad we could bring the heat. And I'm going to tell you, we had a room full of people that were ready for TEXIT. I mean, they were ready for it, right? It is very reminiscent of right after Kyle Biederman filed the Texas Independence Referendum Act, and we went on the TEXIT tour. And every crowd we talked to, packed rooms, overflow crowds. And we started off with the question, who here is ready for TEXIT? And the volume would just kind of blow you out of the back of the room, right? So very reminiscent of that. And I think it's pretty obvious that people here in Texas are ready. The poll numbers from last month, the 66%, I mean, it really shows that. So I think from my perspective, right, what I'm seeing back out on the road, because this is going to be the longest stretch that I have been back on the road since the campaign. But from my perspective, what I saw there, what I'm hearing from our meetups, what I'm hearing from our upcoming events, is that the people that are there, the 66%, are ready to do something more than just vote when it happens to come up on a ballot, right? They understand that the consequences here of inaction are that we don't get the vote. So I'm over the moon. I mean, I cannot express just how excited I am about this. And of course that continues. I'm headed over to a private event in the Houston area tomorrow night. And I wish that I could invite more people, but it's going to serve as a little bit of a prototype for some things we're going to roll out to help empower our people out in the field. That's all I can say about it, but I'm excited to go meet with this group of people tomorrow night. And then, of course, next week is going to be just a humdinger, right? I've got to go do some meetings early in the week. And then Wednesday on the actual anniversary of my date of crossing that proverbial line in the sand. Of course, that's August 24th, 1996. But on August 24th, next week, I'm going to be speaking back in Northeast Texas, back up at 5D Steakhouse in Avenger. People say, man, why Avenger? I'm like, man, if you ever had the steaks at this place, you'd understand why people drive from everywhere to go eat at this place. But we did a campaign event there and got to meet some fine people. But look, if you are anywhere within driving distance of Avenger, right? If you guys don't know where that is, Google it. It's right up there, heart of Northeast Texas. Be sure to go, bring people, show up. Darlene has got a phenomenal place up there, and she has been so accommodating for us and everyone else. And I'm excited to be back up there. I didn't think I was going to be up there again so soon, but voila, here we are. Right. So Thursday, going to be up in Nash, which is right up around Texarkana, if you guys know where that is. Going to be speaking at a meeting up there. And then it's going to be back down to Tyler, where we are doing an event for the Catalyst campaign, a fundraiser, and going to be holding a private screening of a movie about the Conch Republic. If you don't know what that is, it is a fascinating story about the federal government, their interaction with something that happened with the Florida Keys. And it led the mayor of Key West to declare independence, to say that they were seceding from the United States. It's a very little known chapter in history, and it's recent, right? I mean, it's back in, I say recent, it didn't happen in the 19th century. It happened in the late, in the 80s, I believe it was. As a matter of fact, you guys don't know this, but my wife went with her parents to accompany them and wound up in Key West and brought me a Conch Republic flag because she knows I love that sort of thing. Right. So anyway, there's a documentary made about it, and we're going to have a private screening, and you're invited. Right. All you have to do is go to the TNM event page, find the event, and just go RSVP. We'd love to have you there. And it's going to be phenomenal. So that's going to be in Tyler. And then, alas, we're already booking speaking engagements all the way into February of next year. Okay. So, beyond that, we've got local groups forming everywhere, and all of those local groups are having meetups. And beyond meetups, they have volunteer opportunities to go out and help with outreach. So it's not an eat, meet, greet, retreat, right? It's a call to action every single solitary time. So just go to the events calendar. You will not be disappointed. You have every opportunity, and I'm going to encourage you to bring people with you to every one of these events. Obviously, go to the website, RSVP. Let us know you're coming, right? But always, always, always go grab people, because we've said it time and time again. The poll numbers now show it. You can walk out of your house and throw a rock and probably accidentally hit 2 TEXIT supporters that you didn't even know existed. If you guys saw the data that I saw, the maps that I saw of our supporters, you would realize that we literally have people, TNM supporters, declared TNM supporters, in some instances that live doors down from each other and don't even realize it. One of the reasons we launched the TNM app, right? And with the social network, so you guys could connect, which, by the way, if you haven't already downloaded the mobile app, gone in and found your local group, get that done, right? You can go to, the Apple App Store. You can go to Google Play Store and download the app, but make sure you're already registered. You already have your support registered, because you will have to log in. But there you will find probably somewhere in the neighborhood of 500 to 600 local groups where you can go in and converse with people in your city, with your town. And some of those groups are a bit silent, right? Some of those groups, the supporters are there, but no one's saying anything. They're all looking at each other like, okay, who are these folks? So you could be the leader, right? Help organize, be that leader, step out, say hello, say, I want to meet others. Excuse me. Say, I want to meet others. Say, I want to put something together in this town. I want to go win our city for TEXIT, right? you have that opportunity. All right, so that's what's happening. I mean, this has been a phenomenal week, and it's only going to get better, which means yours truly is going to be spending a lot of time living out of his suitcase again. And I'm not running for anything. Just trying to make Texas independent, folks. So TNM's, we're doing our part. Just ask that you help us. Volunteer, come to meetings, do all those things, right? Man, I'm you know what? I'm kind of choked up a little bit. You know what this is? Excuse me. This is going through all kind of different types of pollen and not being prepared for such things. Okay. All right. Let's say we get to your questions. I can see from the chat that many of you are throwing these things out. Okay. Okay, look at that. Richard Dubos, Nederland here. Hey, Richard, I too am in Nederland. We need a local coordinator. You should probably go apply. Go find the Nederland group on the app. Click the button that says organize this group, and let's get together. Let's make this happen here. Okay. Let's get to, okay, here's Gloria. Gloria says, I'm watching on my Roku TV and texting on my phone. See, that's the cool part, man. We're all over the place. Somebody has asked if we're on Rumble Live yet. So the answer is no. All right, we're still waiting for what we talked to the Rumble team at CPAC about. And once we get that, we'll be live on Rumble with each broadcast. But as it stands right now, once this is complete, it does archive and transfer to Rumble. So while you can't watch it live on Rumble yet, it'll be there. But yeah, we're on, we have our Roku app. We're in our mobile app, right? Pull up the phone. There's a button in the TNM app that says TNM TV. You can watch all of our live streams there, plus plenty of videos. Okay, wow. Some of you have got a ton of questions. I'll tell you what, I got a couple via email over here, and I'm going to I will address them together because I think they're important. But let me handle these first. Jeffrey wants to know, when are you coming to the Austin area? Great question. We have a brand new local coordinator over there that is organizing a group. Get plugged in with them, get something spun up, and I would love to come. I mean, I get that direction kind of often, as you might imagine. So, doing something in the Austin area is not beyond the pale for me. But look, we got to go where the TEXIT supporters are ready to rock and roll, right? Now, I will say this. If you're looking for not just Austin proper, but Austin area, the end of this month, I will be in Round Rock. So you can go find that event on the events page. Okay. Be sure you RSVP and share. But Austin proper, yeah, we'll do, we'll be there. But Round Rock, man, that's close. I think that would be considered Austin area, right? All right. So thanks for the question, Jeffrey. Beck Teacher says, I was living in Key West during that time, 1981. There you go. Cock Republic, right? The trailer that I have seen for the movie, and I have not seen it all, but I'm actually interviewed in it. I got a little bit of interview talking about self-determination. Anyway, JD was nice enough to take that interview and take a piece of it and put it in the movie. And for that, I really appreciate that. So, but yeah, it's going to be exciting. That what I know about that documentary is pretty incredible. The whole story. Most people just don't even know the story, much less the half of it, right? All right. By the way, just a reminder for those of you just coming in late, if you have questions, drop them in chat on either of the YouTube channels, and or you can drop them via email on coffeetalk@thetnm.org. Or I think if you comment on the Facebook pages, it all shows up over here. Man, I appreciate this. Todd Bullis, man. Let me tell you, Todd says, praying for you, brother. You're doing a great job and doing great work. Let me tell you guys something about Todd. Todd is a member of the TNM, and he was also running for lieutenant governor. And Todd and I got to spend some time together. Um, probably not as much as we would have liked, but I will tell you, neither one of us left out of that race with any regrets whatsoever, because we got to say some things that needed to be said. And one of my favorite memories was when he and I were the only two that showed up for an editorial board questioning. Right? These editorial boards of the newspapers love to interrogate candidates so they can not give us their endorsement, because they will editorial boards of newspapers were never going to endorse guys like us, right? But we showed up, right? We showed up because you can't even have a chance for victory if you don't show up for the battle, right? Uh, so literally Todd and I were the only ones that showed up, and they wanted to take us to the paint over the Texas independence issue. And Todd and I were like a couple of wolves playing with prey. Because by the time it was all over with, they were saying, well, there's no way that we can endorse people that wanted to break up the union. It's like, we're not talking about breaking up the union. We're just talking about withdrawing Texas from it, right? So we can do the things that we want to do. And I mean, it was just the absolute shock on their faces that when they would throw questions at both of us, I mean, the comebacks were like that. I mean, they thought they were going to get a couple of rubes on here talking about TEXIT, and what they got were two well-versed, well-educated people who knew their stuff. And so, that one was incredibly fun. But Todd, look, I really do appreciate you, man. Thank you very much for that, and we're praying for your family too. I cannot wait to see you again. We got to make that happen sooner rather than later. Okay. I tell you what, let's take this question over here. Mhm. Okay. Now, these are really two questions, and they may be seemingly unrelated, but I'm going to read them together. So, Karen wants to know what's wrong with Abbott? I'm all for TEXIT, So, anyway, Karen says that she doesn't see anything wrong with it. Okay. So, withhold that, because I'm not going to go, I'm just going to talk about it in the TEXIT context, because the rest of that is sort of extraneous to what we're talking about here. But we're going to deal with it. And then unsigned, no name on this one, says, concerned that Steve Bannon's opposition to TEXIT will also be joined in opposition by President Trump, Governor Abbott, Lieutenant Governor Patrick, and will turn the Texas Republicans against it. Okay. So I want people to understand what the lay of the land is, right? And these two questions, though seemingly unrelated, are really closely related, and it's actually something that I had to address during the Q&A last night in Harlingen. Okay, so there's going to be more coffee than talk. I'm going to need more of this. I'm telling you, I'm going to need it. Understanding the key to even being able to successfully win this fight for Texas requires us to understand sort of the lay of the land, the battlefield. You can't properly, if you can't properly identify the opposition, how do you ever anticipate overcoming them, right? If you don't understand who your opposition is and what the nature of their opposition is, then you're just kind of reacting, right? So it's important, and it's something we've done. We know who the opposition is, but unfortunately, many Texas supporters don't. Okay. So understanding where this, who this opposition is. And what I told them in Harlingen last night was this. It's that, this issue is very different than any other issue politically that you have ever dealt with. It is a different animal altogether. Okay. Now, when we've gone to and worked with legislators over all these sessions, the thing that we always told them was, look, you don't understand, this issue cuts weird. Okay. There are going to be people that are for it that you would have never expected, and there are going to be people against it that you would have never expected. Right. Like, you look at a record of somebody, say, like a state representative, Matt Schaefer. Okay. Schaefer on paper would be a massive supporter of it. Dr. Greg Bonin would not have been a supporter, right? But you go back to when James White filed HCR 77, which turned out was the time that we got the legislation filed, but they stripped out the referendum. Okay, so it became just a resolution. But if you go look at the people that signed on to that resolution, you would be shocked, right? None of those people were on our TEXIT bingo card. They weren't there. Then you get to, the story that we talk about related to, when I talk about, people ask me all the time, where's Greg Abbott on this? Kind of like that. What's wrong with Greg Abbott? Why are you so hard on Greg Abbott? Well, it's because I know who Greg Abbott is. And I can take all those other issues of governance and I can silo those and judge those separately. But for people that support Texas independence, that is the criteria that we have to judge him on, right? Article 1, Section 2 says we have an inalienable right to alter, reform, or abolish our form of government. If self-determination and self-government is an inalienable right, then we have to look at it, anybody who opposes it, through that lens of depriving us of a right that is inalienable. Right? If you think the right to keep and bear arms is inalienable, freedom of religion, freedom of speech, all those things that we think of as inalienable rights that do not come from government, right? They don't come from government. They're natural. They come from the Almighty. Okay. So you have to look at it. And like I told the guys last night, when an elected official, a politician, deprives you of your right of self-government, it's akin to somebody coming and kicking in your door and saying, by government order, I'm taking your guns. Or showing up to your church on Sunday and there's a padlock on the door and it says closed by order of the government. You have to look at that in that way. Okay. So you have that mindset. So I go back to, and I talk about it in the TEXIT book, when we actually got the buy-in. I'm not going to go through the whole story, but of all people, not on the TEXIT bingo card, back when David Dewhurst was lieutenant governor, and got an agreement, a contingent agreement from him to help us champion the thing through the legislative process. But his contingency was he wanted a buy-in from the attorney general because he knew or believed that there would be some legal battles ahead, and he wanted to make sure that the attorney general would be willing to go fight those things tooth and nail, to go out there and 100% rep. And then, of course, a couple weeks later, we hear back, and Dewhurst people's like, well, we're out because we couldn't get the buy-in from the attorney general. It's like, well, what was the opposition? Was it the constitutionality? Was it legality? Or are they just completely against it? What's the deal? It's none of those. It was Attorney General Greg Abbott was preparing to run for governor because they knew Rick Perry was going to vacate to run for president, and he was afraid that it would affect his chances of becoming elected governor. No moral opposition, no legal opposition, no violation of principle, just political expediency and fear. And that right there told me everything that I needed to know. So you about Greg Abbott and where he is on the issue of principle. And let's be honest, he goes around, he uses if Texas was its own country, it'd be the 9th largest economy in the world. They'd love to use it as an applause line. But in a position that he is in to take action, he has been inactive. In fact, he has been a major impediment to getting TEXIT done, to getting you a vote on the issue. And it's a problem, right? I've talked about it many times before. I'm not going to rehash all of it, but the bottom line here is that he's been an impediment. Now, the upside is that to a certain extent, he will react to an extreme amount of pressure. If you can overcome if you can overcome the resistance from his donor class. But that's a whole other conversation. And sounds like we might need a lesson in the, how you handle pillars of support for illegitimate regimes. But that's where it is. So, to both of these questions, understand who the opposition is. This is not the people really divided amongst themselves. It's the people versus the political establishment, right? And I understand, like I said before, I understand where Bannon is coming from, but he's playing weekend at Bernie's, right? He's trying to plug holes on the Titanic, and we're the lifeboat. You want to save the principles, you put them in the TEXIT lifeboat, excuse me, and you let us go do our thing. He may get there, he may not. Glenn Beck gave probably one of the most sarcastic interviews to me. I mean, I interviewed with him, and I mean, he just, back when he was on CNN headline news, I mean, he was just ridiculous and brutal and very crazy. But next thing you know, he's pulling up stakes. He's moving to Texas. Next thing you know, he's talking about these issues. Now, will he have me back on for me to tell him, hey, I told you so? No, probably not. But they all eventually come around. But the thing is, we can't wait for them to come around. We don't have time to beg and cajole, right? Let me make this abundantly clear for everyone. Our role in TEXIT right now to help us get the ball across the finish line is not to convince a single solitary soul. It is to spend our time and our effort to find the convinced, connect them to the organization, and organize them to help make the vote happen. We're not looking to convince, we're looking for the convinced. So every minute that we spend haggling back and forth with these opposers, now, not that I'm slighting you for doing that, but understand that every minute we spend doing that is a minute that we don't spend connecting with a voter and connecting that voter to the TNM so that we can grow the numbers and make TEXIT happen. And if you don't think it's a numbers thing, you don't get it. As a matter of fact, let me do this. I'm going to share my screen. Okay, here we go. All right, so I talk about this in the book. So for those of you who haven't read the book, you get this. So enjoy. This is a freebie for you, but this comes from training that we offer to our TNM leadership, right? And one of the things that we talk about quite a bit is what's called a tipping point theory. Okay. Now, tipping point theory, and if you guys know me at all, you understand that I'm really kind of a numbers guy. I want things to make sense. And you have to have metrics. And guess what? All of modern politics runs on that. Okay. Everything runs on that. But there was a study at Rensselaer Polytechnic, right? They wanted to study why things suddenly happen, right? And what they found is things don't suddenly happen. You have these social phenomena where you have a mass of people, and it seems like nothing's happening, and then all of a sudden, boom, in the blink of an eye, things have happened, and everybody's standing around like, what the heck is going on? So they wanted to find out what the basis of that was. So they did this study, and what they found out, and I'm going to show you this. This was a quote: "The number of committed holders is below 10. There is no visible progress in the spread of ideas. It would literally take the amount of time comparable to the age of the universe for this size group to reach the majority." Okay. But once that number grows above 10%, the idea spreads like a flame. So, what they said was there were two things that were very important to understand. And one was that 10% number had to be people of unshakable belief, and it had to be that 10% of the population. And that population applied to subsets too, or that percentage applied to subsets, right? So you want to understand how you ride this out. The 66% of voters, likely voters, is super important, right? You know that they're going to probably go pull the lever for TEXIT when the vote comes. But if you want to lock that in, you got to understand that the key here is unshakable belief. Okay. Now, what does that mean? That means people that an unshakable belief is it means it's strongly felt and unable to be changed, right? And it's unable to be disputed or questioned. So when we talk about not looking for looking to convince, we're looking for the convinced. Understand, we're looking for people of that unshakable belief that Texas should become a self-governing independent nation that are unshakable in their feeling of it being political, cultural, and economic. And I'm going to tell you, it's difficult. You want to understand, man. This is a kind of a place I didn't expect to go. Um, but if you want to understand why it has taken so long for us to get to where we are, understand that it has all been about hitting that tipping point of people with unshakable belief. Because here's the thing: what do you know about people with unshakable belief? They don't quit, right? They don't get busy. You know, things. If you have an unshakable belief, that unshakable belief becomes a priority to you, right? You make it a priority. You make it happen. You know, you heard me talk all the time. If you have heard me talk all the time, and I talk about every day I wake up and I think about the things that just kind of blew my butt out of the water in the first place that got me to cross that line in the sand in 1996. That stuff is never far from my mind. What the IRS did to Mike, right? Or how the VA treated him, right? Those sorts of things are never far from my mind. And you know, the fact that if we're truly in this existential crisis, that my children and their children and their children are going to suffer far worse than we are. It's going to be, you know, if we think it's bad now, it will be an absolute nightmare for them. Those things are never far from my mind. So there's not a word game you could play to get me to give this up. There's nothing you could take from it because I care about those things too much. That's an unshakable belief, right? But you'd be amazed. And over the years, people, oh man, I'm all for this. Man, I'll work till, you know, I'll work my fingers to the bone, all this. And you know, first time they don't get a business card. You mean I got to pay for a business card? Yeah. You know, it's hard. You mean I have to talk to people? I quit. Oh, wait a minute. You mean you want me to actually do something? Well, I'm not doing this. You know, I mean, that's the kind of, you know, that's frankly, folks, the kind of crap you got to deal with, right? Moses Roses of the world don't have time for that. You want to know what has taken so long, what has drugged this thing out for so long, is that we have had to find true dyed in the wool Texians that share that same spirit of 1836 of come and take it, no surrender, no retreat, burn the ferries, march, you know, march on sand. I mean, that, you know, that's the kind of thing that we have had to find. And in those people that didn't have it, we've had to kindle it. You know, part of the challenge in making TEXIT happen has been finding Texans of unshakable belief in the cause and unshakable. Like you can't rock them, you know. And look, that's not on us. I didn't sign up to be a therapist, right? I signed up to win. I signed up to make Texas free and independent, and sometimes I have a bit of a difficult time understanding the mindset that some people have, where they can hokey pokey this thing, you know, where they, oh yeah, I'm in, and oh no, I'm out. Oh no, I'm in. Oh no, I'm out. You know, and it never fails. You know, suddenly, you know, we're gaining momentum. Suddenly, we're in the news. They come out of the woodwork, and that's great. There's always a place here, but for the love of God, don't hokey pokey. If you're in, be in. What scripture say? Let your yays be yays and your nays be nays. Be in or be out. Right? What does scripture say? What else does scripture say? A double-minded man is unstable in all his ways. That is a whole other conversation, not one that I expected to be on. But that being said, understand that a key part of this unshakable belief is understanding that opposition, who they are, adequately and accurately identifying them, and creating the standard to which they must be held. And for us, the standard that we have as an organization is quite simple. It is our mission. We work to secure and protect the political, cultural, and economic independence of the nation of Texas. Oh my God, that probably freaks some of y'all out. Yes, the nation of Texas. To secure and restore a constitutional republic and the inherent rights of the people of Texas. That is what we do. That's the litmus test. And that goes for an individual all the way up to a governor or a Steve Bannon or anybody else. And either they're with us or they scattereth abroad. Okay. So I'm uncontent with where those people are. Practical standpoint, yeah, we got to do it. But let me tell you, you have enough people beyond the tipping point. You're going to get there. The more people, the faster you get there. So, you know. All right. Here's another one that came in via email. Oh, Dave Krieger. Dave, who is our new local coordinator there in Boulevardian Spring Branch, is going to have me as a guest on his radio show, right? The Power Hour. It's going to be next Wednesday, noon, Texas time. We'll get that up on the calendar, and you guys will have a link where you can listen in. All right, let's get to some more questions, man. I got wound up. This is what happens. Okay, here we go. Okay, John says, you said we were at the final mile of the marathon last week. Can you explain your rationale? We seem to be closer to halfway. No, it's you. If you understand the type, so if we were going to equate it to a 4-stage process, right? So there's capacity built. Oh, you know what? I have slides for these things, and I'm just going to go ahead and share them. I'm just going to go ahead and do it. So bear with me a second. Just so you understand where we are and what it is we're doing, you will get a much better of why I say we're in the last mile of the marathon, because when we talk about this last mile marathon, we have to get and win a referendum on Texas independence, and then it's sort of the downhill slide after that. The marathon part, you running a marathon and you get past halfway, or you get it halfway. It's not downhill after that. You still got a lot of running to do. But let me share this with y'all. I think you'll appreciate it. John, I love your question. As evidenced by the fact that I am literally pulling up a slide presentation that no one has seen. So you can see. Present. There we go. Boom shakalaka. All right, let me give this to you. So here's what you got to understand about this. And I will share. There we go. Here are these 4 stages. Oh, I got to take John off there. So here are the key stages of TEXIT, right? So if you understand TEXIT as a process, you understand that and people say this, people talk about it all the time. When are we going to TEXIT? Well, it's already started. It's literally happening right now. And so it started at the very beginning when we founded the TNM in 2005 and began to consciously build the capacity to get connect with enough Texas voters to get a TEXIT vote, right? So we're building capacity. So we create momentum by connecting with TEXIT voters. That is a key thing. I cannot stress that enough. I've said it probably a half dozen times on this coffee talk anyway, to the point you're going to get sick of it. but having us connect with pro Texas voters. That doesn't mean just handing out push cards. That means having meaningful interactions and connecting them with our efforts to get and win a vote on Texas independence. But the next stage is to get a Texas vote. You have to leverage that political capital to get the Texas legislation passed, right? So that means not just getting a bunch of people and getting a bill filed. It's about having the enough political leverage or political capital to push these guys at doing what we need them to do, and that is pass the bill. And you do that by creating large numbers of Texas supporters that are very vocal and very active in their districts. Okay, but that's again a whole other story. But once you do that and you have enough stroke to be able to get the legislation passed, well, then you still have to win the Texas vote. Just because you got 66% of people that say that they would vote for Texas, that doesn't mean that they're going to automatically go to the polls, right? Most campaigns are won or lost on two things: money and getting out the vote. I mean, it's just the bottom line. That's how it works. So we have to run a massive statewide get out the vote campaign, which is great because if we have built our capacity and we've connected with and identified who our voters are, and we have successfully to get the legislation passed, then we can absolutely take those people and make sure we mobilize them to win the referendum. Important. There's an important aspect of this that deals with combating potential voter fraud. That's a whole other topic for a whole other time. But once we win the referendum, it's going to be important for us to mobilize those same Texas voters to secure the vote process. So when I say that we are in the last mile of the marathon, understand that the absolute hardest part of this is right here. If you're looking at a marathon, using the marathon analogy, building capacity, that is the biggest step that we have. That is the thing that is absolutely the most time consuming. And I will tell you, that is not from conjecture, not by any stretch of the imagination. That's not a guess. That is gleaned back 2003 to 2005 pre-TNM, at looking at effective political and social movements, mass movements around the world over the last 75 years. Your capacity building it takes up the bulk of the process. It is about 90% of the process. But once you do that, once you identify those people and you do it in the right way, and you have the ability to organize them and point them toward action, then the rest of it takes care of itself, right? It's one of the reasons that the referendum aspect of this thing is so important, right? It's not just about ratcheting up numbers on the main page. That's not it. It's not about just having a counter and going, ooh, look at us. We're the largest political advocacy organization outside the Republican and Democrat Party. It's not about bragging rights. It's about practically getting Texas done. And if you want to get it done, you help us build capacity, and you start connecting with voters, and you start directing them to the TNM to register their support so that we know who they are, right? And we build that capacity so then we can take that big body of people and aim it at the elected officials that stand between us and Texas legislation, and force them effectively to pass the legislation and give us the vote. And then we take that same group of people and then we make sure we get them out to vote. And we make sure that we organize them so that they can help it. And I mean, it's a lot of work. I get it. Trust and believe. I understand. We have the numbers. The polling is there. But it is absolutely worthless to us if we are not connecting these voters to the TNM so that we can do something with them, so that we can keep them in the loop and counteract the 24-hour propaganda cycle. It's just the way it works. Okay. So that's what I mean by we're in the last mile of the marathon, because we take care of this capacity building aspect of this. The rest of it, it just moves on. It just sort of happens. Not that we won't have work after we handle the capacity building, but from an effort standpoint, if all political powers inherent people, what do you need? You need people. Can't stress it enough. Okay. Let's get to this question. Let's see here. Okay. Here's this one. Robin wants to know if the TNM tries to get the TEXIT question on the ballot again. He circulated a petition for it again. Can we use any of the signatures from the previous petition, or would we need to start over? The answer is no. Right. 172.088, which is in the Texas election code, requires the signatures to be collected within a 6-month time frame. Right. So that's the way that it is. But look, this goes to the capacity building question. If you have those people, it was like one of the ridiculous questions we got over, and not your question, but people say, well, you guys have 400 and some odd thousand registered supporters. Why can't you just tell them to all be there at a certain day to do it? It's like, you think we haven't tried to communicate with all those people? You get churn. I mean, things happen, right? So, it's just those questions from those people are just not grounded in reality at all, right? Those people just don't know what they're talking about. But Robin, your question is sound. But the question really is what should all of our petition signer, all of our people that were collecting signatures, what should they be doing in the meantime? Well, it's what we've been trying to tell all of our former CPCs, which is to pivot and begin to do supporter identification, right? I mean, think about how many signatures how many people you were able to connect with on the petition issue, and think about if all the CPCs were still churning, and all of our volunteers in the system were out there, and they were, committing to 10, just connect with 10 people a month. I mean, that counter on the website would be ratcheting up, and you'd see local groups exploding. I mean, they're growing now, but exploding. It would be huge, right? So keep thinking along those lines as you guys get ready for leadership training that's coming up. I suspect that will come up. Oh man, I'm running short on time. Let me see what I can do here. Okay, Andy. Okay, this is from Andy. How long do you think TEXIT will happen? Andy, if you do not recognize that flag, Andy is one of our friends from New Hampshire, right? And I think if this is the person I'm thinking of, got a chance to meet him at the Liberty Forum, right? When Karen and I were there right after the primaries in March. He's got a ton of stuff. I think it's Granite State Apparel. But anyway, long story short, Andy, here's what it boils down to. And by the way, kudos on y'all's efforts there in New Hampshire. We're, again, a rising tide raises all ships. And the fact that we're seeing an outbreak of desire for self-government and self-determination in a lot of states makes me immensely happy. So your question, how long do you think TEXIT will happen? If it's a question about how long do I think it will take TEXIT to happen, again, my answer from earlier is that because TEXIT is a process, it's already happening, right? It's already happening. If you are asking about the TEXIT vote, we do what we need to do between now and January, and that's not just me, that's not just the leadership team, but literally all of you TEXIT supporters out there. Then we'll get the legislation passed, and you'll have a vote, in November. Well, obviously not this November, but our legislative session starts in January, and you guys will get a vote in the following November, or maybe even sooner. Look, if things go absolutely pear-shaped, don't think that there is not a mechanism that can be employed by the legislature and the governor to get this done faster. They absolutely could. I mean, look, in a utopia, Right now, so many of you people would be pounding Governor Abbott to call a special session to instruct the legislature to, pass the vote to be held within 2 weeks. And then in 2 weeks, we'd go, or, call a special session and say, put it on the November ballot. That could happen. I mean, that could happen. It's within the realm of possibility. It is not very probable, but if you guys were continually pounding the governor's office and wearing him out, and I don't know, a few 100,000, maybe a million of your closest friends were blowing up his phones and showing up at his town halls and saying, "Look, dude, we want a special session. We want TEXIT on the ballot. You got the power. Make it happen. We want to vote in November. We want to be able to vote in November on TEXIT." You could do that. The probability is low, but it could happen. The more likely scenario is we do all the things. You guys stay plugged in. You follow through with what we're asking you to do. You show up when we ask you to show up. You call when we ask you to call, right? You do that, your probability of getting legislation gets really, really high. And that legislation will lead, if passed, to a vote in November of 2023. That's your shot. I'm never going to sugarcoat it. I'm never going to blow smoke up your backside and tell you that, you're going to have independence delivered on the back of a unicorn sliding down a rainbow. I mean, that's not going to happen, right? I can't do it alone. Our national leadership team, we can put things together, but it takes all of you. It's like all political power is inherent in the people. Article 1, Section 2. That's the people, not the group of people, but the people. So you're either going to be part of the political power or you're going to be a Bernie Sanders supporter and let everybody else do it for you. It's a choice you got to make, right? Okay. Hey, Andy, thanks for the question, buddy. I appreciate that. And, man, you guys keep up your great efforts there in New Hampshire. Definitely. All right. Well, guys, I am down to the wire here. So I will leave it at that. I've got more coffee than I have time. So let me get back to work, and I will see you. I will not be on next Wednesday. That was the thing. I literally did not, because I will be speaking in Avenger at 5D Steakhouse. So be sure you get out there and if you can make it out there. But there will be no coffee talk next week because I am on the road. I might be able to slip in a live one other night next week from the road, but no guarantees, right? So anyway, let me remind you, if you are not already a member of the Texas Nationalist Movement, head over to tnm.me/join and become a member today. We definitely want you to be a part of us, right? And of course, if you are wondering about those local groups I mentioned earlier, head over to tnm.me/local groups. That is tnm.me/local groups. And let's not forget, we are in the midst of this big campaign, this largest fundraising campaign in the history of the TNM. It has exceeded our expectations, and there is still time. If you want details on, how to make contributions, what you get, because I got some great spiffs for everyone, head over to tnm.me/catalyst or click on any of the donation links on the main page of the website. It's on the menu. It says donate. You know what to do. Man, oh man, let's get back to work. All right. I will leave you this week, as I leave you every week, with the words of Sam Houston when he said that Texas will again lift its head and stand among the nations. I believe that time is now. And the question is, will you stand with her? Good night, everyone.